Looking at the open world map of Mario Kart World, I was reminded of that little ditty I once penned to describe the particular sequence of level themes almost every Mario platformer goes through. Grasslands, Desert, Ocean, Jungle, Iceworld, Fireworld, Boss. All of those have their inevitable presence on the Mario Kart World map, just as they did in Mario 3, Mario World, Mario 64, all the new Super Marios. Mario Odyssey took particular relish in playing all the old hits, even including the less common recurring themes like Food World and Spooky World. But hey, is it fair to pick on Mario for that? When you think about it, Grasslands, Desert, Ocean, Jungle, Iceworld, Fireworld, Boss is a template followed by quite a lot of games. It could just as easily describe, say, Zelda dungeons, or places you visit in Dark Souls 2, or the sequence of kingdoms you visit in a generic JRPG. And how many times have you played a sandbox game set in a wilderness, like, say, Horizon, where you start off in a grassy bit, and then there's a desert bit, and later there's an icy mountain bit? I remember being impressed that Sonic the Hedgehog got away from the standard biome list. Yeah, they usually start with some variant on green hills, but then it's all mystic ruins and chemical plants and casinos and oil oceans, until Sonic 3 and Knuckles had both a desert level and an ice level, to which I said, oh shit, guess we know when the idea bucket ran dry. Why don't we go through what I will still refer to as the standard Mario biome checklist and try to get to the bottom of what makes them all such commonly visited environments in video games? Well, not to blow the wind out your sails too early, Yards, but could it be because these are the most common environments on the planet on which we live? Land can only ever be grasslands, desert, or jungle, really. Surrounded by ocean, of course, with ice worlds at the top and bottom. And as for Fireworld, you live in California, just go to an outdoor gender reveal party in late summer. Well, yes, obviously that's part of it, but why in video games do they very often seem to come in a certain order? Why is the desert world almost always World 2, for example? I want to talk about the associations that these environments have, why they function so well as a means to differentiate video game areas, and what they bring to the structure of narrative-stroke gameplay design. Okay? Okay, now sit there while I explain to you why grass is nice. It occurs to me that Joseph Campbell's hero's journey could be overlaid quite readily onto Grasslands, Desert, Ocean, Jungle, Iceworld, Fireworld, Boss, and if one were to do that, Grasslands being very commonly the first setting a game plonks you in, would be right over what Campbell calls the ordinary world. And it doesn't get much more ordinary than grass, one of the most common plants in the world that grows on every continent. Also, abundant green vegetation is environmental shorthand for the flourishing of life and everything generally being A-OK, and in contrast to its plant colleagues in the forests and jungles, grass is about the least threatening form of greenery. Unless you live in some of the places I used to live in the Brisbane suburbs, fucking Christ, walk around barefoot on that grass and you'll swiftly learn not to walk around barefoot on it. But that's the outlier. Most people associate grass with home, comfort and safety, making it very fitting for a first area. That homey feel can be effectively turned on its head with an abrupt introduction of horror and violence to let the player know the shit has truly gone down. Like in Sonic 3 halfway through Angel Island Zone when everything suddenly bursts into flames. As I said, desert is commonly the second area, because after the grasslands we need to mark the fact that the grasslands are over, and how do we do that? We take away the grass, bam, desert. Essentially, having gone through all the establishing and tutorializing of the adventure in the opening act, the second act is our chance to strip things down and really get to grips with the nuts and bolts of the gameplay loop, and how better to symbolize that than by physically stripping the place down. No people, no grass to hide behind, just you and whatever's trying to kill you. As for its narrative effect, the desert is a setting most commonly associated with being lost, it being a place that almost nobody should ever want to deliberately go to. So its association with uncertainty makes it useful for the phase of the plot where the threat has been introduced, but we're still wandering around a bit punch-drunk, wondering what the fuck we're supposed to do about it. This is where the formula gets a bit loosey-goosey. The next few environments historically have come in whatever order the game feels like, and they're all just variations on new, different kind of terrain that presents new inherent challenges to the act of traversing it. And ocean, or water level, certainly does that. I mean, it's water now. Can't even walk on it. Fucking crazy. So much to work with. Vertical exploration, the contrast between above and below the surface, altered gravity mechanics, drowning, getting eaten by sharks, etc. You could make a strong case for ocean being the natural follow-up to desert. After all, if you want people to be excited about discovering a new environment, it should contrast as strongly as possible with the ones either side of it. Plus, we have a neat, universally understood natural way to transition from desert to ocean. It's called a beach. And we're back in the world of lush vegetation, but wait, this isn't the nice friendly vegetation we're used to. No longer is it the soft friendly grass for us to roll around on, where the only threat was posed by an occasional unnoticed bumblebee. Now the plants are all coiling around and in the way of things and getting up in your business. In that sense, the forest or jungle level is sending a clear message. You can never go home again. You were having trouble with all that desert and ocean business and thought you could get things back on track by coming back to nature, but no, things have changed. You've changed. And more importantly, there's tigers now. The unique gameplay offered by a forest or jungle setting is, in 2 words, reduced visibility. Where in the desert, you and the enemy might have all been nakedly sprinting into open combat like Sir Lancelot in Monty Python, now there could be a tiger 10 feet away and you'd walk straight past. And in the continued journey of our hypothetical hero, it's a humbling moment to be surrounded by trees, ancient undisturbed beings way bigger than you, who don't know the first thing about this princess rescuing business of yours and wouldn't give a shit if they did. Now this one's a classic. Ever since 2D platformers realised there was basically only one way to mix up their core gameplay, and that was to make the floor a bit slippery. But Iceworld can also be called upon to do the job of any of the previously mentioned areas. It's got the open hostility of the ocean, the bleak emptiness of the desert, and if you rustle up a quick blizzard, it's got the low visibility of jungle as well. Also, the unbroken whiteness of a snowfield is clean and peaceful in a stark kind of way, and that's why it's often taken Grasslands' place as the starting area in games with a generally more melancholy tone, such as Final Fantasy VI, Red Dead Redemption 2, and God of War. In this context, Iceworld is shorthand for flawed stability. Hey, nothing's going on, the world hangs in limbo, and while you're technically safe, you are probably going to lose your bollocks if things don't change sooner or later. Now let's wrap things up with the final overused Mario biome, good old-fashioned fire-stroke-lava-stroke-volcano world. The all-time classic setting for a dramatic final battle going all the way back to Lord of the Rings, and probably beyond. You shouldn't need me to explain why Fireworld often represents the peak of a game's difficulty curve. It gets a hell of a lot harder to stay alive when there's a bunch of lava around. But in considering the hero's journey, I think it's important to consider what fire represents. Yes, it's dangerous and destructive, but also a necessity. Just as forest fires are occasionally necessary in the long run to keep the place tidy, the Fireworld is the final tempering to prove our hero's mettle. Their ultimate goal is to get through this and come out the other side stronger. There's a reason why baptism of fire is a cliche. Fire is a force for destruction, but at the same time, a catalyst for transformation. Just look at Resident Evil 5. That game ended with a climactic battle in a volcano, and that had the effect of transforming the franchise into a big pile of shit.
This video is brought to you by GameMaker. If you've ever wanted to get into game development, GameMaker does this really crazy thing where it's free. Just start making and only pay when you want to release your game to the world commercially.
It's fast, it's user-friendly, and there's easy-to-follow tutorials, plus a dedicated community to help answer even my questions. How make man jump? GameMaker is a 2D game engine that's helped bring some of yours and my favorite recent experiences to life, like UFO 50, Chicory, Anton Blast, and of course, Yahtzee's own Starstruck Vagabond.
Ooh, are we talking about GameMaker? I love that program, it's so easy to use. As well as Starstruck Vagabond, I also used it to make all 12 projects in my 12 games in 12 months Dev Diary challenge. And I couldn't believe how much sex I got out of that. None. I got none at all. Which I couldn't believe.
So what are you waiting for? Head on over to the GameMaker link in the description and start cracking away today, because we want to play your game.
Yeah, looking through this list, I'm seeing one of you made Armpit Fart Tycoon, and I've got several questions for you.